Hello everyone, my name is Loco and welcome to a best of 3 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a 2 versus 2, where first off, in the top right hand corner in game number 1, playing in blue, we have none other than Serral. Wait, I assumed this would be Serral, but this is his teammate, Zhugeliang. Then this, this has to be Serral. That is Serral's, okay. Their opponents, spawning right here in the far bottom left. Well, first off, I don't want to make any assumptions anymore. Okay, it is still Goblin, playing the red Protoss pieces. And then his ally, well, he goes by the username of Demon Mark. This is none other than uThermal. Serral playing Protoss? Well, now I've truly seen it all. That's a little bit funky. So one of the questions I get all the time, right? Who's the best Terran? Who's the best Zerg? Who's the next best pro? Like, who's the best in anything? And then ultimately the question always leads, who is the very best random player in the world? Who would be the absolute strongest? And in my mind, well, I mean, it's hard to say. Maybe it's Glim. But it's very likely that whoever is the very best player on the planet is also the very best random player on the world. Because generally speaking, programmers don't play their off races a ton. So I would be inclined to say it's Serral. Now, over the last half year, as you probably are well aware, pretty much everybody has been dipping into a bit of Protoss. Clem's been playing Protoss. Apparently, Raynor has been playing Protoss. Dark's been playing Protoss. Now, Serral's playing a bit of Protoss. I don't really know exactly who would be the absolute very best random in the world, but if this was a betting show, I would be putting my money on Serral. He's just so solid all around, but I don't believe I've ever seen him play Protoss. And we're starting it off with a cheeky little cheese. Fair enough. So, Breakwater LE. I don't actually know if I've seen this map before. So that's nice, getting a little bit of map variety. Oh god, Goblin also thinking about being a bit of a cheesy boy. No? No. He's mostly just scouting, although this is a very suspicious scout. I don't really entirely trust it. I think we're gonna build a pylon. Yep, we are building a pylon, while Serral is already building a gateway in the middle of the map too. You know that Spider-Man meme where they're both pointing at each other? That's essentially what's going on here right now. The Protoss players just trying to be cheeky, trying to outsmart one another. Serral now working on uThermal's Overlord with a Stalker. A sentence I thought I would never have said. Back in like 2017 or so, back when uThermal was still a pro gamer and Serral only played Zerg, I would have never expected that uThermal, who was always a Terran player back in the day, would be playing with Zerg and Serral would be playing with Protoss. Everything's messed up, man. Nothing makes sense anymore. Goblin is going into Dark Templar. Oh, jeez. I believe it's been scouted. We had a lot of pings there on the minimap. Yeah, Goblin must have noticed it and immediately decided to alert his ally. You know, back in the day, the world was flat. Then the world became a globe, and now apparently we are living in alternate dimensions. There's a lot of universes everywhere I look, man. Nothing makes sense anymore. Okay, Zhugeliang going into a cheeky little bailing roll by. This is a very strong committed attack though by Serral and his ally. Serral actually move commanding a little bit right there with the Stalkers as he's desperately trying to kill the Stalkers here from Goblin. Good warp in there though to make it difficult for those units to progress, and the Dark Templar are out, and this is a real issue. Not all heroes wear capes, but this guy does. Well, Serral has certainly noticed it by now. Yeah, he's building a Spore Crawler. Well, Zhugeliang is building a Spore Crawler. Team Blue is building one. But since they don't have any reliable moving detection right now, they can't really reliably win the game off of all of this. So I'm guessing they need to go back to the drawing board, because if you just send in more and more DTs, well, they're going to be able to push this back eventually. Okay. Maybe it's still worth killing this hatch as well, though. They decide to just back off entirely. There is a DT in the meantime here as well from Goblin inside of the main base. Of the players in blue, Serral forced to run all of the probes. What an absolute clown fiesta for a first game. This This is such a miss. Exactly why we have a look at 2v2. It's so funny too, because I just recently did cast at Grand Finals, actually, of the 2v2 tournament as well. This was Elaser and Skillis going up against Max Specs and Spirit, and they played it very differently. Still very chaotic, don't get me wrong. But this is more akin to your average ladder experience, I believe. When you play 2v2 in StarCraft 2 with like random allies, there is a lot of aggression and a lot of cheese. Zergling's trying to go around the back. We still have a Dark Templar now going to town. Man, why did we only warp in 3 Dark Templar? These guys have been so incredibly valuable. I'm not exactly sure why Goblin didn't make a few more. He probably assumed there would be mobile detection out by now. But even with detection, those units are still phenomenal. Serral forced to go for a recall. Big Zergling counterattack though here from Zhugeliang. Proxy is gonna get shut down here eventually. Yeah, there's no way that these Lings are going to be able to clean this up, though, because there's still Dark Templar and there's still no mobile detection. Well, I did see a couple Overseers. We didn't go for speed, which is a little curious. Obviously, this is a low eco early game here, so player in blue here has money to really be throwing around, but I think having mobile detection is still worthwhile. Why are we still on 3 Dark Templar? Are we now morph one of them into, or 2 of them, I guess, into an Archon? I really think they were very useful. Anyway. Goblin, by the way, certainly somebody who's a bit of a cheeky boy. He can play very funky early game pushes. Now, he's been steering away from that style over the last couple years, at least in the games that I've seen him play. But in my mind, he still has that image. Okay, low ground base here for Goblin now. Mark is getting his natural expansion going again. That proxy in the far top corner, by the way, still hasn't really... I think he must have worked in one of those Dark Templar over there, but that's about it. What's going on here, dude? We have the little bear guy on the jet ski. This is like the summer vacation home? Breakwater? Yeah, I guess that's got to be the part. That's breaking... You love to see it. The supply counts are actually very even at this point, which is maybe the most surprising thing. Still, though, this army here. Ooh, Banelings. Oh, that's not it. No. Takes so many Banelings to kill an Archon. Zhugeliang slipping up there a little bit. Now it's only Serral Stalkers that really remain. Good control on the Archons as well, dude. They killed... Oh, they must have been responsible at the very least. They face-tanked at least a dozen Banelings, and they're still alive, so they will regen. Yeah, GG gets cold, and Serral and Zhugeliang have to get out. Wait, what? Did we switch accounts? Hold up right now. I did select the right replay, right? Okay, so I just had to double check. For some reason, uThermal has switched to Terran. That doesn't surprise me much, but he has also switched accounts. I just double checked whether or not I had the right replay selected, but this is indeed game 2 in this particular best of 3 series. We are no longer Demon Mark. Instead, we are the Cheese Maniac. Now, you'd imagine that sometimes that happens, right, when you switch servers. So when you switch servers, you can have a different account name. So you can mix it up a little bit in that regard. However, all of these players are European. So... I don't know, we're not switching server. Apparently, we're just switching accounts. Just, you know, to keep me guessing, I suppose, but also the opponents. I can imagine that Zhugeliang and Serral, I mean, they are going to be mentally entirely broken at this point in time, I'm sure. Okay. Could be, I guess, a hotkey profile? Yeah. Well, you can switch your hotkeys. Like, your hotkey files are a file on your computer inside of your documents folder. Some of them are stored online as well. It's always a little bit confusing, but I can imagine. I don't know. Maybe this is just uThermal being uThermal. He's always been a bit of a cheeky boy. And apparently, he's keeping everybody guessing. I mean, to be fair, if there would be any high-ranking player out there that would change their username mid-series, I think uThermal is most likely to be that guy. Nobody's all too surprised. Now, this is a much more macro-focused map, right? I mean, we could at least play a lot more macro-focused. So, Serral is going into full Protoss. Honestly, that previous game wasn't the best Protoss. I mean, it was a little bit messy. Not the cleanest execution at all, but maybe it's just a little bit of warm-up. I can imagine Serral doesn't do a whole lot of warm-up games in general. I can imagine he didn't really practice a whole lot of Protoss going into this either. But we should be good. That's a very tight pylon positioning here, but I think the Nexus can still fit. Generally, we do go for a second round of units out of the gateway, though. That means that this probe is way too early. So, in the last iterations of the monthly 2v2 tournament, Serral did participate, and he did participate with Zhugeliang. Okay, did not block his Nexus, even though there's a little bit of overlap there for those circles. A little bit, it's like half the circle. At the time, they were playing Zerg and Zerg. So the both of them were playing Zerg. It was pretty apparent that it's very suboptimal to have two players play the same race in 2v2. It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I can imagine that is a reason, by the way, why Serral has decided to switch. But I kind of just assumed that Zhugeliang would be the one switching. I know that Serral's Terran is considered to be really good, but apparently not feeling confident to play that in a team game format. A lot of questions. Not a whole lot of answers, I'm afraid. Well, it will be a Twilight Council here for Serral, so he's going to go into what is likely Blink. He can go for a big push too. They could go for like a collective all-in, but yeah, Blink just makes the most sense. That indeed will be the research right now that he has begun. Goblin, in the meantime, building his Nexus on the low ground too. He's already got a Stargate. Didn't produce anything out of it yet, though. Did he? No, he did. I was going to say. Thought I saw something on the production tab. So he does have an Oracle now currently going in. Serral actually with a fake hallucination. Hallucinating an Oracle towards the other side. Okay. Trying to get a bit of work done. Not really achieving anything yet, though. So we have the Stalker here, together with that Sentry, just keeping everything alive. Now, that's a curious little patrol pattern. Let's analyze this. If this was Formula 1, I've been following Formula 1 for a couple years now. In F1, we see the most cringe, in-depth analysis of everything every driver does, because there's not that much content, right? There's just not that much base content for them to analyze. They would be going in-depth with the analysis of the of the patrol layout there. Is Serral onto something here that no other Protoss player knows? Should you be using a 90-degree angle to try and patrol yours? It's a perfect way of doing it. No, not the case. Most of this stuff is not really that relevant anyways, right? Now, the Oracles have found an opportunity. This is much better. Goblin up a couple of those probes. Loki, you're so funny. Thank you, guys. A lot of workers have been killed, though. 7 probes in total and 9 drones. Not ideal. Loki, you're so funny. I'm going to hit the like button. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. All right. Looks like we're going for at least an attempted push. I mean, I don't think we can really go too far. Zhugeliang just taking his queens on a little walk. It's important. They're old. They're very slow off creep. Some of them have forgotten where they are. No, you don't own a house anymore, Brenda. No. At your age, owning property, I mean, man, it's just, no. You've sold it all. You got all your money in the bank, Brenda. She's confused. Anyway, she still knows what's a Terran unit, so she just shoots away at whatever she can hit. The Zerglings also do join in, and Serral is ready to go for a bit of a push. A bunch of Roaches have joined in too, and some of them are morphing into Ravagers. Stasis Wards, though, could be incredibly potent. uThermal now also has 3 siege tanks set up. Serral sees this, though. But at least they won't be too surprised. Stasis Ward here over 2. Serral spots it. How does he see it? I'm assuming he uses his eyes. I never see them, though, personally. There's another one. Okay, they are going to commit. Big attack. Very nice lined up, too. It's just a lot of freaking siege tanks, man. Stalkers and Zealots or Stalkers and Ravagers rather, not a bad choice against these type of armies. And they are actually sort of carving a path through all of this. Those tanks are having a grand old time. The reason, of course, why uThermal has this many siege tanks out at this point is because he's playing mech. So he's already got triple factory, double armory. He is going full Turtle Terran. Yeah. The reinforcing Zerglings show up, so maybe Zhugeliang and Serral will still be able to kill this Nexus on the low ground. That would be really nice for them, but I don't believe so. And that means that this is mostly just a wash, with them having a slightly bigger... Well, the players in red, that is. They have a bigger economy here for at least a little while. Maybe the worker count has been caught up in the meantime. Nah, not really. Zhugeliang's drone count is still very low. So that really does paint the full picture here. The worker count is just not ideal. For Team Blue, they were committed to that attack, and now they find themselves behind. These Zerglings do even the odds just a bit. The saving grace, though, for the team in blue is that, well, uThermal and Goblin are playing a rather slow army. Factory 4 and 5 are coming up. There's these big, beefy upgrades also researching, but this is an army that doesn't spawn particularly quickly. So even though they have an advantage, they probably won't be able to capitalize anytime soon. Detection will be built at the front. Yeah, I think we're just going to turtle up. Zhugeliang going into an infestation pit. Honestly, swarm hosts, not a garbage choice. Most of the time, garbage. But sometimes garbage is art. Well, I don't know about that, but to some people, I'm sure garbage is art. So we'll have to see whether or not he's going to go for garbage or if we're just doing this to go up towards the hive. Nope, we are playing swarm host. Yeah. Generally, you go infestation pit together with a Hydra then if you want to go lurkers, which is like the only real secondary option. So swarm host is actually kind of cool. I think against mass mech, it has a lot of potential. It's just, again, a unit that gains value over time. So all of these are signs pointing towards a bit of a slower game of StarCraft. Smart servos coming up here for uThermal. That is the speed transformation upgrade. So he can get his Hellions to transform into Hellbats a little bit quicker. This is a lot of swarm hosts, by the way. We're building quite a few, 12 already. Dark Shrine coming up for Serral. Okay. This game is cooking up nicely. The real downside of the swarm host is that it's very supply heavy. The real upside of the Terran mech army is that it's extremely powerful when it maxes out. So that's exactly, I guess, what uThermal is trying to do right now. Build up a big ball of Terran units and then go across the map. It's a good plan. It just takes a long time to complete. Yeah, so he's getting all the luxury upgrades already. Like, for example, smart servos, but this is high-sec auto-tracking that just finished up. That is the ranged upgrade for the planetary fortress and the missile turret. Like, that is not the type of stuff, you know? If you look at, like, the hierarchy of needs, this is not the foundation of playing Terran, okay? This is when you have, like, your shelter, your food, all your luxury needs covered. That's when you ultimately go for the high-sec auto-tracking and the smart servos. Well, they're still going for a big push. I wonder if maybe you should have skipped those upgrades and gone into more stuff. The Locust Wave is available now, and that's going to ultimately force those siege tanks to unsiege. The swarm hosts are kind of awesome here. Yeah, when you want to go for a full slow push, the swarm hosts are strong. My only problem here, and I don't really like saying this, but Serral is dragging his feet here. He's not really doing anything productive. I mean, he's getting damage done on the other side of the map. That's nice and all, but he's effectively doing this push because he has no army. Like, that's his whole army. He's got a couple stalkers at home, but he needs to... They need to get this army to retreat somehow, some way. Maybe the swarm host can solo 2 armies at the same time. I mean, that is a really nice wave. Yeah, good number of stalkers. I think a siege tank or 2, a whole lot of Hellbats. All of them ended up going down. Serral, in the meantime, getting a bit of damage done too on the other side of the map. I think he must have killed a good chunk of probes. A little bit of economy. Yeah, not bad. The siege tanks, they're waiting for the next wave of Locust. It's on cooldown. I don't think there's going to be a return trip, though. Serral now coming around the site. Okay, and they defend. Serral literally at half the supply of Zhugeliang here. Serral now going into Dark Templar. He really has learned the ways of the Protoss. One of the first lessons that you go and you get in Protoss school is when behind Dark Shrine. All of the Swarmos just got caught in the middle of the map. Ugh, ugh. Do we not have Burrow or anything? No, we do not. Zealots inside of the main base too right now from Goblin. Okay. A little bit ugly. Recall here from Serral to try and get some of his units back into the main base. Recall as well on the Zealots, though, to try and get them back home. Such a mess. Where's the Dark Templar? Okay, here we go. I don't think Serral is the worst, or the world's best Protoss player, guys. It's not that I'm hating it, but I'm not too impressed. It all looks a little bit clumsy and disconnected. When behind Dark Shrine is powerful, but it's not really achieving that much. Thor's coming up. Blink towards the high ground is an opportunity, but I don't think the greatest one. Okay, and you know what? With all of those swarm hosts dying, Zhugeliang does have an opportunity to remax with something a little bit more supply efficient. But maybe swarm hosts are... They're certainly worth around. Or like, they're worth keeping around for a little bit longer, I think. A lot of Hellions here. Keep in mind the Hellions are just a mineral dump when you're playing Terran Mech. uThermal is deciding what units he wants to make by spending all of his gas first, and then Hellions to basically fill in any additional stuff. I mean, he's got quite a bit of gas in the bank right now. Securing new bases. Ooh, this is nice. Goblin actually warping in and catching both of Serral's forge upgrades before any of this finishes up. Still though, Serral and Zhugeliang have a large army. But losing upgrades does suck. Yeah, he's actually adding new Swarmos into the mix. I don't hate it. I think keeping the Swarmos around for a little bit longer would have been amazing. But they've been the most effective weapon of choice. Hydra then into Lurkers would be a great idea too. Zhugeliang carrying Serral on his shoulders so far. Ooh, he's going to sacrifice a big chunk of his army to kill that Nexus, but I don't believe that's worth it. Although he's getting some value as well on his way out. The Thors, the Immortals, the Unsieged tanks are getting a lot of work done. Serral now coming in around the site, picking off whatever he can hit with his Stalkers. He's got really only Stalkers. Zhugeliang following this up now himself with 18 additional Swarm Hosts. Couple Blue Flame Heck Bets. Trying their very best. Getting a bit of work in, but... We've already had 20 dead Swarm Hosts. And 18 more are going to join the fray. Serral now has actually... Yeah, he's got enough Stalkers here to really start threatening expansions. It's a little funky, especially against Terran Mech. You really wouldn't expect that Mass Stalker would do very well. But there's not really that many units available, I guess, for uThermal. And Goblin actually has been completely knocked down, losing so many of his own troops as he was trying to chase down that Zerg army. He's now only at 79 supply. Hellion run by towards the other side of the... sorry, excuse me. Heckian run by. Going towards the other side of the map. Serral using the all-army hotkey here to grab his units and bring them back very rapidly towards those golden minerals. Okay. Serral's basically playing mono battles. Like he's just got Stalkers. He's got one unit, man. That's beautiful. Zhugeliang playing a very complex Zerg setup, constantly switching, preparing ahead. Yeah, he misplayed a little bit, but he's back at, you know, where he wanted to be. That's a very ambitious little locust wave, but you know what? It's also so many freaking locusts. That Nexus is super dead. It just doesn't know it himself yet. As soon as they turn their weapons, yep. Look at the HP bar. Oh, disappear. I mean, that was tight. But he got the job done in the end. Stargate here on the production tab for Serral. As he's thinking about making a transition towards Skytos, I would imagine. Spire now also coming up for Zhugeliang. uThermal still just going full mech. This is the Ooga Booga Terran strategy. Terran bio, extremely delicate, very hard to play. This is, this is the caveman Terran style. It's strong, but it's just so slow. Especially when you position everything in one big ball like this. I never really like it that much. Fleet Beacon coming up together with an additional Stargate. Fair enough. A couple Zealots here from Serral on the left side of the map too, trying to be jerks. Mostly just trying to keep that Terran army pinned back. Yeah. So Goblin is trying to rebuild, and that's why they're playing slow right now. Lurker Den coming up for Zhugeliang as well. So they've decided that now is the time to do a full switch into countering this extremely slow army from the players in the red. Hackbats in the front again. This time around though, there's enough support for most of them to survive, and this is a real opportunity right now for the players from the top left to get damage done. The Locusts are only about halfway available again. Their cooldown is quite long. And a ton of the supply here from Zhugeliang is caught up in those swarm hosts. They're using this now to get the siege tanks a little bit further forward. Woo! You see those stalkers get obliterated? Zealot run by on the left side of the map too. We have some corrosive biles landing wherever is possible. Where's those swarm hosts? Okay, they are once more available. I wonder if it's better to activate half of the locusts here so you have them available twice as frequently. Because I think these Thors would die regardless of how many locusts you throw down. Anyways, actually not even that bad of a fight. That went way better for the Thors and the Immortals than I ever thought it was going to be. I guess the Thors already gunned down some of the locusts while they were still in midair. Tempest coming up for Serral. And Serral's going to go bowling. I know he's a big fan of golf, but apparently bowling is going to be his second favorite option. Maybe slightly less sophisticated, but still cool. Apparently that's what Serral does, by the way, a lot of the time. Apparently he loves bowling. He plays a lot of bowl. Or bowling? He loves golf, rather. Yeah, and Cheese Maniac and Goblin are slowly fizzling out. They can't really find a good opportunity. The Swarmo Stalker Bull is extremely potent against this sort of thing, because it's just, like, in a straight-up engagement, the army in red would win. But, I mean, a minute or two ago. It's just that they're never getting a straight-up engagement. Serral's running circles around them right now with Stalkers. The Locust here and the Tempest are keeping everything at bay. Disruptors are going to be extremely useful. And this army, I mean, it's taken them about, I want to say 3 minutes to go all the way across the map. Obviously, Zerg and Protoss can recycle their units really quickly. GG gets cold, and that indeed means that we are going to game number 3. Okay, next up, we find ourselves on Crimson Research Lab. It's a little bit crimson. Yeah, the central part of the map is crimson. Look at this. There's like tracks all over. Oh. Actually, I think it's just the wind blowing ripples in the sand. Alrighty, final game of this best of 3 series. We are apparently, by the way, back to Demon Mark. Demon Mark now also plays Terran. No, it wasn't a hotkey thing. I have no idea why we switched. Makes absolutely no sense. Anyway, he's going to be making the Hellions. They get to be rally drivers on this type of map, right? When there's this much sand to go around. Probes, though, don't care. They levitate. Same for drones and same for SCVs. Small amount of levitation. Fun fact, actually, when they first designed StarCraft 1 in the alpha version of the game, minerals existed outside of the rest of the map. So it was more like a space platform where minerals were kind of like, I don't know, little rocks that were orbiting the platform. And the worker units actually had to, like, say it's over here, right? They had to go out of the map and then harvest the resource and then bring them back to the command center nexus or the hatchery. Apparently, that's the reason why every worker unit in the game floats. They were designed once upon a time, in like 1996 or whatever, to go out of the map. And then at some point they decided, you know what, maybe we should just put the rocks on the mineral fields or on the map instead, and it'll be a little bit more obvious to design maps, I suppose, because otherwise you have to design maps with a lot of dead space. Not very fun. Big push right over here, though, from Team Finland. Oh, that Zergling run by is working out really nicely. Goblin's Nexus is certainly not going to live. Okay. Yeah, this is actually very effective. Goblin has now only got 32 supply. Now, Serral doesn't have that much either. There is, however, a Dark Shrine finishing up here for Goblin. Zhugeliang still making links. It is certainly time, though, to get back to the droning here. Get that economy boosted. Okay. Extra queen finishing up in just a moment. And yeah, apparently the pings are saved from all of the players. I don't really quite understand why some things are saved and then other things aren't. Pings are apparently part of the replay files. It's kind of useful. Very nice, of course, as far as a feature goes when you're trying to play with an ally, especially when you're trying to indicate exactly where something is. Obviously, though, you can communicate as well through the in-game chat, but I'm assuming these players will be talking over voice chat instead. Makes way more sense. Serral and Zhugeliang in Finnish. Which, you know, I've listened to it a bunch of times, and I know this is coming from a Dutchman, so maybe it's weird, but I'm not 100% convinced that Finnish is a real language. It sounds very weird to me. I've been told many times that Dutch is a fake language, though. People think German sounds aggressive. You must never have heard Dutch. Dutch sounds way more harsh than German. Anyway, let's see. We have Blink coming up together with the charge research here. Double upgrades for Serral. Building up his economy. Going into an additional robo here. We've got ourselves a nice little setup here for a macro game once more. Goblin trying to play catch-up after falling behind, losing that Nexus. Being all the way back on one base. He did make the Dark Shrine, but the Dark Templar, yeah. They're mostly just enjoying the Crimson Sunset over here, I guess. Okay. Oh, no, no. You guys were sent in for just a split second, but then we realized that you were retired. Fair enough, you can just go and hang out in the corner. Well, to be fair, this is a very well-protected base. This is like a StarCraft 2 cinematic over here. Zerglings patrolling, Overseer patrolling, there's a Queen and a Spore Crawler. No way that those DTs would achieve anything in that section of the map. Stalker's going around the site, trying her very best. Serral microing Stalkers. Dude, Serral is a big fan of Stalkers. He does know that Protoss have more units than just Stalkers, right? Like, he is aware, right? I don't think he's made a single Zealot. Does he know that Zealots are a thing? They're basically like Zerglings with 2 legs and blades for hands. Does he know? Anyway. It is interesting, actually, how every single player that tries their hand... So, every single one of the top-tier pro gamers that tries their hand at playing Protoss, so be it Dark or Clem or whoever, they always go Mass Stalker. Not me. After I played Zerg for about a decade, I decided that I wanted to be that guy who sky tosses everybody. It's the exact... You know, Stalkers are really hard. Stalkers are really hard to micro well. I don't believe that Skytles is quite up to the same level. I mean, you can still get effectiveness, but you can get like 98% of the Skytles effectiveness from attack moving. You can get maybe like 30% of the effectiveness when you attack move Stalkers. Maybe that's why they gravitate towards it and I don't, right? Because they're actually good. Oh, man. Accidentally set myself up for a roast. Okay. So after playing a very nice timing attack early on, Team Finland has decided that they want to chill for a little while. They're looking for opportunities, but the map is big and it takes a very long time to go across. The map is dark and full of Terrans. And Demon Mark has decided that he wants to go and build up just a whole lot of Marine Marauder Medevac siege tank type of stuff, right? So, not the most remarkable army composition, but just a solid backbone. They're actually playing very macro-focused across the board. Game number 1 was super aggressive, very feisty. This match, not so much. In the second game, obviously, I mean, we had some aggression. Same for this one too, but in general, very macro-focused indeed. It's nice to see. Serral, though, going now into the second Stargate here. We're building up a fleet beacon. We're going into the double research. He will be going into the full Skytles transition very soon. Now, there's a few units in the game that have the most, like, highest reward potential. And I think Stalkers certainly are one of those units. Just pretty easy to micro across the board, but very difficult to micro perfectly, right? I don't think it's really possible. Not until Alpha Star came up back in, like, what was this, like 2016 or so, when the Google DeepMind team was working on creating a perfect AI, that we realized how much value you can really get with Stalkers. This is a nice push, though, from Team Blue. Those siege tanks completely off by themselves. There's a few more on the back of this as well, but, I mean, this is not quite the army that you're trying to control. No, this is not going to happen. That's a lot of dead SCVs. A command center that will go down the drain as well. Serral and Zhugeliang let them sit on the high ground, but as soon as they move down, they decided to try and push it away as quickly as possible. That being said, though, they did sort of overextend a bit. A lot more banelings are morphing in. We have 22 banelings, but they're not yet done. I don't believe that Demon Mark and Goblin can really continue fighting here. uThermal is going to have to... Yeah, he already wants to go home here. He's going to have to bring more units across if he really wants to support his ally. Marines and Marauders, not that useful. He decided to go for the additional siege tanks here. It's a risky push. Tempests are already spawning. High Templar are going to get... They have Storm? Yeah, they have Storm already. I thought either they were going to get it, or they already had finished it up. Storm is dangerous, though. Specifically against the Marines and the Marauders. Not so great against Protoss. Okay, Serral uses it against Protoss. Does he not know? Has he even played this game before? Jeez, dude. Way better against Marine Marauder. In the meantime, even though they lost that base at home, we do now have Goblin sniping down one of those hatcheries. Serral trying to keep his bases alive. Okay. Well, he kept one of the Zerg's bases alive, but the other hatchery has already disappeared. The one over at the gold base. There is also a Zealot run-by in the meantime, but a recall here is going to push those Zealots away. Serral keeping those around for a little bit longer. And now apparently, like a tug of war, it is time for Team Blue to be the aggressor. Okay, no, not going to happen. Take 2, though, when it comes to the low ground expo. Zhugeliang going into the Ultra Cavern. I think we all know what that means. Serral building the mothership. And he's got carriers. Wait, I saw a carrier on the production tab. We canceled it? Okay. We decided to, I guess, cancel it in favor of the last bit of supply going to that mama ship and some additional probes. Zealot run by in the meantime on the other side of the map. Serral did make Zealots, by the way. They're basically like bipedal Zerglings. Not bad. Okay, Stormy Boy over here. Does go down, but deals a good chunk of damage. Zhugeliang, by the way, does still have an army of his own as well. Mostly just chilling. He doesn't have that much stuff. It's mostly just this army right over here. Ah, I was wondering where all the supply went. He made 9 Ultras. I was wondering how he had like 170 supply but no units. Well, this is the only unit that Zerg makes that takes a while to come out of the little cocoon. They do need this upgrade really badly though before they're useful, but chitinous plating is certainly going to finish before they engage. And I'm mostly wondering here whether or not Team Red is going to be prepared. We have 2 Immortals and 4 Siege Tanks. 2 Ghosts? It's not ideal. Have they seen it? Well, now they have. A new Immortal immediately begins. You kind of need to go, though. I don't think you can really sit on Ultras for too long. Like, first off, they're really big. So sitting on them in general, I mean, maybe that would make it easier, but you also really don't want to have them around for too much longer. You really want to try and get their value and then either continue pushing or back off. Transition towards something else, but I feel like the longer you keep Ultras around in this sort of stage that we are in right now, the weaker they are going to become. Because the more Immortals you get, the easier the counter will be by Protoss. The more Siege Tanks and Thors and all that, the more Ghosts come out. They're going to be amazing. Circling run by in the meantime, though, trying to get some value. Serral slow pushing here at the front. This is weird, because this army wants to attack, and this army wants to slow push. So this is like a slow pushing army together with a very aggressive Ooga Booga style type of army. Serral, though, has single-handedly now cleaned up that base. Yeah, this is not an army that, like, flows well. I don't like this. It could very well win the game, though, but now the Immortals are out. And the Immortals, I mean, even if you have just 3 of them, look how much damage they did. This is way better. Yeah, the Lingbane Ultra run-bys, super dangerous. And this is actually now, it seems, forcing an all-in here from uThermal and Goblin. EMP on this Protoss army is dangerous, still a storm available, but he keeps storming the Stalkers for some reason, rather than storming the bio units. Alright, this is apparently when we pull the trigger. This is a fight that does take place on creep. A little hard to really see exactly what's happening, but it seems to me that the Zerg army has just been obliterated, and the majority of the Terran units are still around. That being said, though, Goblin did dip very fast when it comes to his army supply. He doesn't really have a lot left over, and ultimately this is still a banger army. Look at that. We have the Vipers abducting the Thors within Tempest range, and yeah. Even though the first wave of Zerg ended up going down, the reinforcements and the other units that were attacking on the other side of the map showed up eventually. That means that indeed Team Serral and Zhugeliang ended up winning this best of 3. Ultras won the game, by the way. Sick.